it's an important scripture for us as well. It says, after Ehud died, the Israelites once again did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord sold them into the hands of Jabin, a king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. The commander of his army was Sisera, who lived in Harosheth Hagoyim. Because he had 100 iron chariots and had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years, they cried out to the Lord for help. Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapido, was leading Israel at the time. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites came to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh and Naphtali, and said to him, the Lord, the God of Israel, commands you, go, take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead the way to Mount Tabor. And I will lure Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops to the Kishon River, and give him into your hands. Barak said to her, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. Very well, Deborah said, I will go with you. But because of the way you're going about this, the honor will not be yours. For the Lord will hand Sisera over to a woman. So Deborah went with Barak to Kadesh, where he summoned Zebulun and Naphtali. 10,000 men followed him, and Deborah also went with him. Now Heber the Kenite left the other Kenites and descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law, and pitched his tent by the great tree in Zananim near Kadesh. When they told Sisera that Barak, son of Abinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor, Sisera gathered together his 900 iron chariots and all the men with him from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River. Then Deborah said to Barak, go, this is the day that the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, followed by 10,000 men. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera and all of his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera abandoned his chariot and fled on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim. All of the troops of Sisera fell by the sword; not a man was left. Sisera, however, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, because there were friendly relations between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the clan of Heber the Kenite. Jael went out to meet Sisera and said to him, come, my lord, come right in. Do not be afraid. So he entered her tent, and she put a covering over him. I'm thirsty, he said. Please give me some water. She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. Stand in the doorway of the tent, he told her. If someone comes by and asks you, is anyone here? Say, no. But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died. Barak came in pursuit of Sisera, and Jael went out to meet him. Come, she said, I will show you the man you're looking for. So he went in with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day, God subdued Jabin, the Canaanite king, before the Israelites. The hand of Israelites grew stronger and stronger against Jabin, the Canaanite king, until they destroyed him. Here ends our reading this morning. Thanks be to God for his word. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells the disciples, as well as all of us here, that we are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. In the same way, let your light shine before all men, so they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. The light at this time seemed like it was almost extinct. There were not a lot of good deeds that were going on during this time. It says that the Lord was upset, and so he sells the Israelites once again into the hand of Jabin, this king of Hazor, and he brought this darkness upon him. There's two players here that you're looking at. There's Jabin, the king of Hazor, and there's this other guy by the name of Sisera from Harosheth Hagoyim. And you may look at that first one, this Jabin, king of Hazor, and if you're a real one who likes to get into the historical of what happened, you may remember that there was a king by the name of Jabin from Hazor that was also mentioned as being defeated by Joshua and was killed by Joshua in the initial conquest of Canaan. I do not, but if you look at the text, you don't get the idea that it was the same king, but rather they probably used it that Jabin was a dynasty line, and this is one of the next kings in that dynasty line. Sisera, if you look at the scriptures, does not sound like a Canaanite name, as many scholars point out, and so perhaps he would have been Hittite. He may have been a mercenary of some kind who was hired to lead the army, and he was from Harosheth Hagoyim, meaning he probably was given this parcel of land either as a part of a payment or perhaps as some type of reward for being for his loyalty, for his success, and so he may have been some sort of a vassal. And you know that this man is very successful when at his disposal there are 900 iron chariots there. He was very successful. And so as the star of the Canaanites seems to rise, the darkness seems to fall on Israel. But the light doesn't go out completely. There is a woman who is preaching the word of God. A prophetess by the name of Deborah is that light that shines. And she earns the unique status of not only being one of the few women prophetesses that we have in the Bible. You have Miriam among others, and Anna in the New Testament. There are maybe 4 or 5 in the entirety of the scriptures. But we also have her as being the only female judge. Interestingly, there's some imagery that's very powerful here, in that the name Deborah, according to the Hebrew, means bee. And if you notice where she wasn't in the city. She wasn't in some area that was significant with power, such as a location that was powerful for the Israelites, but rather she is in the hill country. She's by this tree, and by this tree you have Deborah the bee dispensing the honey of God's justice, the sweetness of God's justice to all of the people in there. And more significantly, once again, she is in the hill country of Ephraim. Because of where she is, her location, she's more in a central location, so all of Israel would know where Deborah was. They could all come to her and they could see her there, and she would then carry out her type of judgment. Now, I don't want to really make speculations on what type of judgments she did. I don't believe that she was a judge in the way that we look at Judge Judy or somebody today, but rather she gave insight on the spiritual condition of what was happening for the people while they were there. So Deborah was there, she was accessible, she was a judge, but she was also a prophetess, and that's where she gave the insight to the spirituality of the people, and she was that light that's shining in the midst of the darkness. And oftentimes in our lives, we have many different people. We have many times that we can look at our lives that we know that people were shining lights in our lives. We may have had a pastor, a teacher, a parent that took us along with us and showed us how the light was. And we are very excited about that. And Deborah may have been that person for some of us, or somebody like Deborah. But we also know that for every good one like Deborah, there are several that are masquerading as the light that are actually darkness. And so we need to be very careful about that. And we need to remember as well that the darkness may even reside in our own hearts. There are things that are being taught, actions that are being taken that we need to be taking account of in our lives. We need to remember as well that we are the light. Jesus called us the light of the world. The city on a hill cannot be hidden. We aren't supposed to put our light under a bowl, but rather Jesus says that you take the light and you put it on its stand. Why do you put it on its stand? Because then it gives light to everyone in the house. If we are identifying ourselves as Christians, as being members of the light, we need to let that light shine to others. And that shows in our actions as well as our words. I know that many of us say, well, I show the people that I'm a Christian by the actions that I take. Yes, that's wonderful. But if we don't also let people know why we're doing something, if we don't use our speech, then that action may be useless if they don't hear the message of why you're doing something. We need to be the light in our actions as well as our words. Do you and I emulate Christ with our actions? And are we the light of the world? Are we willing to be messengers of the true light when it means giving somebody a message that is a little bit hard? And do we have faith like Deborah to shine as the light in the midst of a dark situation? So you have this woman, Deborah. She's a very, very powerful prophetess, and she is in the middle of this hill country, and she gets prophetic consciousness that she receives this vision or this feeling from the Lord that God is calling her to send for this man Barak. And that's what we have in the scriptures. And she's calling Barak, son of Abinoam from Kadesh and Naphtali. And so he's the one that God is going to call to end the crisis. And so he's commissioned, and what is he commissioned to do? He's told to go and take 10,000 men with you, go to Mount Tabor, and I give you the instructions for there. And the Hebrew word that you have is this word for Mashon, which means that God is going to lure them, or he's going to trap them at the Kishon River. And once again, he's not only told exactly what to do, he's given the marching orders. He's told exactly how all of it is. He's told the exact place. It's going to be this place called Tanakh. He's given all of this information. What does Barak do? But he has reservations. And this brings us to our second point, is that the true light will always remain with us. The true light remains with us. So you have this commander by the name of Barak, and he can be kind of a puzzling figure in many ways. Barak has confirmation from the prophet of the Lord that he is the man that is supposed to lead the troops. He's the man who is going to who can deliver Israel from all of the oppression from Sisera, these 900 iron chariots, as well as this Jabin, king of Hazor. But once again, he's told that it's going to be a great victory, but yet he wavers, he hesitates, and actually, I think perhaps we kind of scold Barak a little bit, but we need to remember that there are other people that hesitate as well. If you go back to the story of Exodus, you have Moses who hesitates. He wants to have a sign, and so God tells him to throw the stick down on the ground, and the stick will turn into the snake. And that was one of the ways that he told Moses that he would be there with him. And Moses was also given his brother Aaron to be a mouthpiece as well. Moses kind of wavered a little bit, and we'll be talking about in just a couple of weeks about this man by the name of Gideon who says, "Give me a sign, give me another sign, give me another sign." And I think we need to remember that with Barak, he as well is one that is just a little bit unsure. And some scholars will all argue about it. Some will say that he's really coward, and that's why he's not wanting to do this. Others say that he really didn't trust Deborah as the prophetess because there weren't a lot of female prophets that went around. But what we really need to ultimately look at is Barak wants the presence of God to go with him. That's why he asks Deborah to go there. If Deborah was the mouthpiece of God, he's asking her to go with him so that he